The silence that followed Clarect's verbal assault was more than just diplomatic tension. It was a razor's edge of potential violence. Elena Rodriguez's neural implants weren't merely decorative augmentations. They were living, breathing interfaces that processed information at speeds that would make most alien computational systems look like ancient abacuses. A holographic display flickered to life around her, casting intricate patterns of light that seemed to dance with an intelligence of their own. The council chamber, typically a bastion of rigid protocol, suddenly felt like a pressure cooker of unspoken histories and carefully concealed truths. Commander Jack Nakamura, stationed in a hidden orbital command center thousands of light years away, watched the proceedings with a precision that bordered on predatory. His fingers hovered over a quantum-encrypted interface, each microscopic movement capable of triggering a series of events that could reshape galactic politics in milliseconds. The Vorlac representative, Clarect, was a marvel of crystalline biology, its fractal-like body shifting with colors that represented emotional states to its species. What looked like contempt to human eyes was actually a complex display of bureaucratic condescension, unique to crystalline intelligences. Its lattice-like structure pulsed with a rhythm that suggested complete confidence in its diplomatic superiority. But Elena knew better. Her augmented eye, a marvel of human biotechnology that was simultaneously a communication device, a computational array, and a tactical analysis tool, began recording every microscopic detail. The quantum-linked neural network connected to a vast intelligence matrix that had been collecting data on galactic species for generations. The council chamber itself was a testament to millennia of interstellar diplomacy. Suspended in what appeared to be empty space, the room was actually a complex gravitational construct that could adjust its physics to accommodate the diverse physiological needs of hundreds of different species. Atmosphere generators hummed beneath crystalline floors, creating localized environments that ranged from near absolute zero to temperatures that would incinerate most organic life. Surrounding Elena were representatives that defied human evolutionary imagination. The Nebrian delegates, gaseous entities contained within sophisticated environmental suits, shifted and swirled like living storm clouds. Carect's silicon-based lifeforms stood perfectly still, their crystalline structures reflecting and refracting light in mesmerizing geometric patterns. To the untrained eye, they might have seemed like statues. To Elena's augmented perception, they were complex computational entities constantly processing and analyzing every millisecond of interaction. Jack's voice whispered through her neural link, of communication so encrypted that it would take most species centuries to even recognize it as a communication channel. "Proceed with Protocol Omega-9, he murmured, his tone clinical yet carrying an undercurrent of anticipation. Elena's response was almost imperceptible, a slight twitch of her left index finger that would have meant nothing to the alien delegates, but was actually a complex series of quantum-encrypted commands. Across multiple star systems, massive machinery began to stir, awakening from decades of carefully maintained silence. Clarect continued its verbal assault, seemingly unaware that each word was being processed not just by Elena, but by an entire networked intelligence that had been studying, analyzing, and preparing for this moment for generations. The Vorlac believed they were delivering a diplomatic reprimand. In reality, they were providing the final piece of a complex strategic puzzle that humanity had been assembling for centuries. The neural implant in Elena's brain wasn't just recording. It was analyzing, predicting, wargaming potential scenarios with a computational speed that made the most advanced alien systems look like children's counting blocks. Thousands of potential diplomatic and military responses were calculated, evaluated, and discarded in the span of a human heartbeat. This wasn't just a diplomatic hearing. This was the culmination of humanity's greatest long-game strategy, a moment of calculated revelation that would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the known galaxy. And nobody in the room, not the crystalline Vorlac, not the gaseous Nebrian, not the silicon-based Carext, had the slightest idea what was about to happen. Deep beneath the Atacama Desert, The facility known as Nexus Zero was more than a research complex. It was humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Dr. Arya Patil moved through corridors that seemed to breathe with technological potential, each wall a dynamic membrane of adaptive materials that could reconfigure themselves faster than most species could blink. Her team was unlike any collection of researchers in human history. Genetic engineers worked alongside quantum physicists. Cultural anthropologists collaborated with AI ethicists, and each member carried a genetic and technological profile so classified that their very existence was a state secret. They were the architects of humanity's ultimate contingency, not just a backup plan, but a complete civilizational reset button. In the central chamber, a holographic representation of human colonies stretched across multiple star systems flickered into existence. These weren't mere theoretical projections. Each point represented a fully self-sustaining ecosystem, carefully engineered to survive in environments that would kill most known life forms. Massive orbital habitats, underground planetary complexes, and mobile stellar constructs that could migrate between star systems at near-instantaneous speeds. Dr. Chen approached, his augmented body a testament to decades of human biological optimization. Cybernetic enhancements weren't just technological additions, they were seamless extensions of human potential. His right arm, a marvel of quantum adaptive biotechnology, could reconfigure itself into complex scientific instruments or communication arrays at a moment's notice. The Exodus protocols are more than just an escape plan, he said, his voice carrying the weight of generations of strategic planning. We're writing the next chapter of human evolution. A young researcher named Kai Liu stepped forward, bringing up a complex holographic display that showed intricate networks of quantum-entangled communication systems. Our preliminary studies of alien communication networks revealed something fascinating, Kai explained. Every advanced civilization has a fundamental weakness. They become complacent. They believe their current technological paradigm is the pinnacle of achievement. The display shifted, showing layers of technological infrastructure that appeared to be collaborative, but were actually carefully constructed Trojan horses. Human engineers had been embedding themselves into galactic technological ecosystems for decades, not as conquerors, but as strategic infiltrators. In a sealed laboratory adjacent to the main chamber, genetic archives hummed with potential. These weren't just DNA samples, they were complete genetic libraries, containing not just human genetic information, but carefully curated genetic material from thousands of Earth's species. Each sample was preserved in quantum-stabilized containment units that could maintain genetic integrity for millennia. Commander Nakamura's voice crackled through a secure quantum channel. Initial preparation stages are complete. The orbital migration vectors are locked and ready for activation. His tone was clinical, but there was an undercurrent of something else. Anticipation, perhaps even a hint of vindication. Arya pulled up a series of historical analyses, centuries of human interactions with alien civilizations. Each diplomatic encounter, each technological exchange, had been meticulously documented and analyzed. The Galactic Council believed they were guiding humanity. In reality, humanity had been conducting the most elaborate social and technological experiment in known history. We're not just leaving, Dr. Chen muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. We're proving a point about adaptation, about potential. The facility itself was a marvel of human engineering. Adaptive materials could reconfigure entire sections of the complex within seconds. Power generation wasn't dependent on external sources. Each section contained multiple redundant energy systems that could draw power from quantum vacuum fluctuations, theoretical technology that most alien species considered impossible. Kai's display shifted again, showing projected scenarios of galactic response. Thousands of potential diplomatic and military reactions were mapped out, with probability matrices that accounted for cultural, technological, and psychological variables of dozens of alien civilizations. The key, Arya explained to a group of younger researchers, is understanding that technological superiority isn't about raw power. It's about adaptability, about seeing potential where others see limitations. Outside the facility, the Atacama Desert continued its timeless vigil. To any external observer, nothing seemed amiss. But beneath the barren landscape, humanity was preparing to rewrite the rules of galactic civilization. The countdown continued. 72 hours until everything would change. The moment Elena Rodriguez began to speak, reality itself seemed to warp. Her words weren't just sound. They were a carefully orchestrated quantum cascade of information that began to unravel the very fabric of galactic infrastructure. Each syllable carried encrypted command sequences that triggered failsafes, bypass protocols, and strategic disconnection mechanisms embedded deep within collaborative systems. Around her, the holographic representations of alien delegates began to fragment. Not dramatically, but with a surgical precision that suggested something far more calculated than a simple technological failure. Quantum entanglement markers, invisible threads that had connected human-developed technological systems across multiple star systems, began to pulse with an almost living intelligence. Dr. Sofia Alvarez, monitoring from a hidden quantum relay station in the Kuiper Belt, watched the disconnection process with a clinical detachment that bordered on artistic appreciation. Her team had spent decades creating what could only be described as technological sleeper agents, systems so deeply integrated into galactic infrastructure that their removal would be like extracting individual neurons from a living brain. Initiating tertiary cascade, she murmured, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface that seemed to breathe and shift with each touch. Around her, massive data transfer nodes began to pulse, each one a node in a network so complex that it defied traditional understanding of communication and infrastructure. The alien delegates began to realize something was wrong. The Karxt representatives, silicon-based entities whose computational abilities typically allowed them to process millions of variables simultaneously, found their sensing arrays going dark. Communication channels they had relied on for centuries simply ceased to exist, not with a violent disruption, but with a calculated precision that suggested intentional design. "We have been patient observers," Elena continued, her voice a calm counterpoint to the technological symphony unfolding around her. "Every collaborative system, every shared technological framework, has been an opportunity for study, an opportunity to understand." Correct, the Vorlak representative, attempted to interrupt. But its crystalline communication matrix was already dissolving, complex lattice structures breaking down as embedded human-designed quantum disruptors activated. What had seemed like collaborative technology was revealed to be an elaborate Trojan horse, a decades-long infiltration of galactic systems. In orbit around Europa, a massive data transfer hub that most species believed was a neutral technological exchange point, began to reconfigure. Adaptive materials, developed through decades of secret research, began to fold in on themselves. Entire computational frameworks that had taken centuries to build were dismantled with a surgical precision that suggested they were more like living organisms than mechanical systems. Commander Jack Nakamura tracked the disconnection process through a multi-dimensional interface that would have driven most biological minds to madness. Each disconnection was not just a technological event, but a carefully choreographed diplomatic statement. Humanity wasn't just leaving. They were demonstrating the fundamental difference between collaboration and true understanding. "The systems you believe were shared," Elena's voice continued, "were actually an elaborate test. A method of understanding the fundamental limitations of your technological and cultural paradigms." Kai Liu, back in the Nexus Zero facility, watched the disconnection process through a series of quantum-entangled monitoring systems. Each system's dissolution was a data point, a piece of a massive research project that went far beyond simple technological superiority. The truly terrifying aspect wasn't the technological capability. It was the cold, calculated patience that had made such a comprehensive disconnection possible. Decades of careful observation, of strategic integration, of understanding not just the technological systems, but the cultural and psychological frameworks that supported them. Alien diplomatic channels began to flood with confusion. Entire communication networks that had been the backbone of interstellar cooperation were being systematically and precisely dismantled, not destroyed, but carefully extracted, like a surgeon removing a complex network of parasitic growths. "We are not leaving." Alina's final statement cut through the growing confusion. "We are redefining the parameters of interaction." As the last quantum entanglement markers dissolved, what remained was a profound silence, not an absence of communication, but a pregnant pause, the moment before a fundamental transformation of galactic understanding. Humanity had just demonstrated that true power wasn't about conquest. It was about the ability to walk away, to redefine the very rules of engagement. The technological shockwave spread like a quantum ripple, revealing layers of human infiltration that defied comprehension. Dr. Lena Volkov, a xenoarchaeological historian stationed on a remote research platform, watched the unfolding events with a mixture of professional fascination and personal excitement. Her specialized sensors, developed through decades of studying alien technological ecosystems, began capturing data that would rewrite everything known about interstellar technological development. What appeared to be a simple disconnection was actually a complex unveiling of a technological symbiosis far more intricate than anyone had imagined. In the Andromeda Research Outpost, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka discovered the first truly shocking revelation. The communication networks that various alien species believed were collaborative infrastructure were, in fact, elaborate data collection systems. Each quantum entanglement node was not just a communication point, but a comprehensive cultural and technological archive. It's like discovering that every diplomatic conversation for the past century was actually a detailed anthropological study, Tanaka muttered, his augmented eyes scanning through petabytes of suddenly accessible information. The true scale of human technological preparation became a labyrinth of revelations. Trade routes that seemed to be collaborative economic channels were actually carefully constructed information highways. Research facilities that appeared to be joint ventures were, in reality, sophisticated observation posts that had been collecting data on alien civilizations with unprecedented depth and breadth. Commander Elena Rodriguez, still standing in the Galactic Council chamber, watched as holographic representations of technological networks began to unravel. But this wasn't destruction. It was revelation. Each dissolved network exposed intricate layers of human technological integration that had been invisibly present for generations. The Orcs communication matrix was the first to fully comprehend the magnitude of what was happening. Their silicon-based computational systems began to reconstruct the layers of human technological infiltration, revealing a strategy so complex that it bordered on organic intelligence. Dr. Arya Patel, monitoring from Nexus Zero, explained it to her team with a clinical precision that barely concealed her underlying excitement. "We didn't just prepare for this moment," she said. "We transformed the very concept of technological collaboration." Entire star systems began to reveal hidden infrastructures. What had appeared to be neutral scientific outposts were actually comprehensive cultural and technological observation points. Each research station, each collaborative project, had been a node in a massive planet-spanning intelligence-gathering network. The most terrifying aspect wasn't the technological capability, it was the patience. Humanity had spent generations creating a technological framework so deeply integrated that its removal was more like a controlled metamorphosis than a violent disconnection. Kai Lu's quantum analysis revealed the true depth of the infiltration. Communication networks weren't just being disconnected, they were being transformed. Entire technological paradigms that alien civilizations had considered fundamental were being rewritten in real time. "We're not just leaving," Liu explained to a group of stunned researchers. "We're demonstrating the difference between technology and understanding." On a quantum relay station orbiting a distant neutron star, a team of human researchers began to catalog the technological revelations. Each disconnected system was a data point, each dissolved network a chapter in a comprehensive study of galactic technological evolution. The shockwave wasn't just technological, it was conceptual. Alien civilizations had believed they were guiding humanity, teaching them the intricacies of interstellar cooperation. In reality, humanity had been conducting the most elaborate social and technological experiment in known history. Fragments of technological archives began to surface, hidden repositories of information that revealed the true depth of human preparation. Cultural databases, technological research archives, comprehensive studies of alien civilizations that went far beyond simple diplomatic observation. Commander Jack Nakamura's voice cut through the growing confusion. "This isn't an exit," he stated, his tone a mixture of clinical analysis and profound philosophical insight. "This is a redefinition of interaction." As the last quantum entanglement markers dissolved, what remained was a profound silence. Not an absence of communication, but a pregnant pause, the moment before a fundamental transformation of galactic understanding. Humanity had just demonstrated that true technological superiority wasn't about power. It was about the ability to understand, to observe, and ultimately, to choose one's own path. The retaliatory attempt began not with weapons, but with bureaucracy, a weapon far more familiar to the galactic powers. Admiral Zara Klex of the Nebrian Collaborative Fleet initiated what should have been a standard diplomatic suppression protocol. Her gaseous form coalesced within a sophisticated holographic command interface, tendrils of quantum reactive matter weaving through complex strategic projections. What looked like a military response was actually a multi-layered economic and political assault designed to isolate humanity. But humanity was already 10 steps ahead. The first wave of alien countermeasures crashed against technological barriers that seemed to shimmer and adapt in real time. Where traditional defensive systems would have rigid protocols, human-developed technologies moved like living organisms, absorbing, redirecting, and neutralizing threats before they could fully form. Dr. Mikhail Sokolov, leading a specialized xenodefense research team from a hidden facility beneath the Ural Mountains, watched the defensive mechanisms with a scientist's clinical fascination. Each incoming attack wasn't just being blocked, it was being studied, analyzed, its fundamental communication protocols deconstructed and archived. "They're not just defending," Sokolov murmured to his team. "They're learning." The Karxt battle cruiser Crystalline Judgment approached what it believed was a vulnerable human evacuation fleet. Its silicon-based computational core calculated millions of potential attack vectors per microsecond. Advanced weapon systems charged, quantum disruptors primed, ready to obliterate what seemed like an exposed human formation. What happened next defied everything the Karxt understood about technological warfare. The human fleet didn't just defend. It transformed. Adaptive hull materials began to reconfigure, not as a traditional defensive mechanism, but as a complex information absorption system. The Karxt weapon discharges were captured, analyzed, and their fundamental energy signatures effectively neutralized before they could cause any significant damage. Commander Jack Nakamura tracked the engagement from a quantum-encrypted command center that existed simultaneously across multiple quantum states. To call it a defensive position would be a misunderstanding. It was a living, breathing strategic analysis node that processed potential conflict scenarios faster than most species could comprehend a single tactical decision. "Initiate passive absorption protocol," he commanded, his voice calm despite the magnitude of the unfolding scenario. Across multiple star systems, human-developed technologies began to reveal capabilities that bordered on the miraculous. Weapon systems weren't just blocked, they were fundamentally rewritten. Attacking fleet communications were not just jammed but transformed into complex data transmission networks that fed critical information back to human research facilities. The Vorlak military strategists found their most advanced computational systems becoming increasingly erratic. What should have been precise attack algorithms dissolved into complex mathematical poetry. Lines of code that contained more information than traditional weapon systems could comprehend. Dr. Arya Patel's research team at Nexus Zero began collecting the computational remnants of these failed attacks. Each attempt was a treasure trove of alien technological understanding. Each failed assault a lesson in interstellar conflict resolution. "We're not just defending," Paddle explained to her team. "We're conducting the most comprehensive technological and cultural study in galactic history." The economic warfare was equally sophisticated. Alien economic regulatory bodies attempted to freeze human assets, to create financial blockades that would cripple human interstellar operations. But human economic systems had long ago transcended traditional financial frameworks. Entire economic networks reconfigured themselves. What looked like financial vulnerabilities were actually adaptive economic ecosystems that could redistribute resources faster than regulatory bodies could track. Credit systems, trade routes, resource allocation, all transformed into fluid, almost living technological entities. Admiral Klex watched in growing horror as her meticulously planned suppression protocol began to dissolve. It wasn't that humanity was resisting. It was that humanity was fundamentally rewriting the rules of engagement. The final blow was perhaps the most subtle. As alien systems continued their futile attacks, human technologies began to broadcast something unexpected. Not a threat, not a declaration of war, but a comprehensive data package. Cultural archives, technological insights, philosophical frameworks that revealed the true depth of human preparation. It was less a defensive action and more a profound educational experience. Humanity wasn't just leaving the galactic stage. They were redefining what it meant to be a participant in interstellar civilization. The data archives began to unravel like a complex, living tapestry, each thread a narrative of calculated preparation that stretched back centuries. Dr. Elena Rosario, a xenohistorical reconstruction specialist, found herself at the epicenter of humanity's most profound revelation. The recovered archives weren't just documents. They were a comprehensive blueprint of a multi-generational strategy, so intricate that it challenged the very concept of long-term planning. In a secure vault deep beneath the Antarctic Research Complex, holographic displays began to reconstruct the hidden history. What appeared at first to be disconnected research projects, diplomatic interactions, and technological developments revealed themselves as carefully orchestrated nodes in a complex global strategy. The earliest seeds had been planted generations ago, shortly after humanity's first confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. It wasn't a moment of submission or fear, but of calculated observation. Every diplomatic encounter, every technological exchange, had been meticulously documented and analyzed with a patience that defied conventional understanding. Dr. Marcus Chen, reviewing the archives, discovered something far more profound than a simple exit strategy. "This isn't about leaving," he explained to a select team of researchers. "This is about creating a fundamental shift in how interstellar civilizations interact." The archives revealed multiple layers of preparation. Cultural anthropologists had been embedded in diplomatic missions for decades, not as traditional researchers, but as strategic observers. Each interaction was a data point, each diplomatic failure a carefully studied opportunity for understanding. Hai Liu discovered a series of encrypted files that painted a stunning picture of technological infiltration. What appeared to be collaborative research projects were actually elaborate long-term experiments in cross-species technological and cultural understanding. Human researchers had integrated themselves so deeply into alien scientific communities that they were essentially invisible. Commander Jack Nakamura's personal logs provided a chilling insight into the strategic thinking. One entry, dated nearly 30 years earlier, stood out. "We are not preparing for conflict. We are preparing for a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation." The technological infiltration was breathtaking in its complexity. Research facilities that seemed to be joint ventures were actually comprehensive observation points. Communication networks believed to be collaborative infrastructure were actually the most sophisticated data collection systems ever conceived. Dr. Sofia Alvarez uncovered a series of psychological profiles of alien diplomatic corps that went beyond traditional intelligence gathering. These weren't just reports, they were comprehensive understanding of entire species' decision-making processes, cultural blind spots, and evolutionary trajectories. "We didn't just study them," Alvarez muttered, reviewing the archives. We understood them at a level they couldn't even comprehend. The strategy revealed itself as a multi-generational approach to interstellar interaction. Each diplomatic failure, each technological barrier, had been carefully studied and integrated into a comprehensive understanding of galactic dynamics. Humanity hadn't been learning from the Galactic Council. They had been teaching the Council a lesson in strategic thinking. Genetic archives showed something even more profound. Human genetic research hadn't just been about biological optimization. It had been a comprehensive study of adaptability itself. Each genetic modification, each technological augmentation, was a step towards creating a species capable of fundamental transformation. The most stunning revelation came from a set of philosophical treatises developed by a think tank that had operated in complete secrecy for decades. These weren't traditional diplomatic documents. They were comprehensive frameworks for reimagining interstellar cooperation. Cooperation is not about submission, one document read. It's about mutual understanding and the ability to walk away when fundamental respect is absent. Entire diplomatic and technological strategies were revealed to be elaborate simulations. The Galactic Council hadn't been guiding humanity. Humanity had been using the Council as a complex testing ground for understanding interstellar dynamics. Dr. Lena Volkov, reviewing the final set of archives, found a message that seemed to encapsulate the entire strategy. It was a quote from an unknown source, buried deep within the most encrypted files. True power is not about conquest. It's about the ability to choose your own path, to define your own existence, and to walk away when the terms of engagement no longer serve your fundamental values. The archives were more than a history. They were a profound statement about the nature of civilization itself, a blueprint for a new way of understanding interstellar interaction. Humanity hadn't just left the Galactic Council. They had redefined what it meant to be a participant in galactic civilization. The aftermath was not a silent collapse, but a symphonic deconstruction of galactic infrastructure. On the communication hub of the Nebrian Collaborative Fleet, Chancellor Vexera watched in mounting desperation as entire technological ecosystems began to unravel. What had seemed like robust, interconnected networks revealed themselves as fragile constructs, their foundational integrity dependent on human-developed technologies that were now systematically withdrawing. Trade routes that had sustained multiple civilizations for centuries began to dissolve, not through violent disruption, but through a calculated withdrawal that exposed the fundamental weaknesses in alien economic systems. The Orcs economic modeling systems, once considered the most advanced in the galaxy, began to generate increasingly erratic predictions. Dr. Imani Okoro, stationed on a research platform near the galactic rim, tracked the systemic changes with a mix of professional fascination and personal excitement. Each dissolved network was a data point, each collapsing infrastructure a lesson in the fundamental nature of technological interdependence. The Vorlak diplomatic corps found their communication matrices becoming increasingly fragmented. Diplomatic channels that had existed for millennia suddenly became unreliable, with vast sections of institutional knowledge simply disappearing. It wasn't that the information was destroyed. It was that humanity had selectively extracted the most critical components, leaving behind structural shells that looked intact but were fundamentally compromised. Commander Elena Rodriguez's final transmission to the Galactic Council was both a warning and an invitation. Interdependence is not the same as collaboration, she stated, her voice cutting through increasingly desperate attempts at communication. True cooperation requires mutual respect, not hierarchical control. Entire research initiatives collapsed as human-developed foundational technologies were withdrawn. Scientific projects that had taken centuries to develop suddenly found themselves without critical infrastructure. It wasn't sabotage. It was a surgical extraction that exposed the deep-seated vulnerabilities in how alien civilizations approached technological development. Dr. Marcus Chen analyzed the systemic changes from a hidden research facility. "We're not destroying," he explained to his team. "We're revealing. Every collapsed system is an opportunity for genuine reimagining." The economic impact was perhaps the most profound. Human-developed financial algorithms had been so deeply integrated into alien economic systems that their removal created cascading failures. Trading networks that had seemed stable for generations suddenly found themselves unable to process even basic economic transactions. On the Karxt homeworld, economic modeling systems began to generate increasingly apocalyptic scenarios. Entire planetary economic infrastructures that had been built on the assumption of stable interstellar trade found themselves facing complete systemic breakdown. Kai Lu's research team began collecting the computational remnants of these collapsing systems. Each failure was a treasure trove of information about the fundamental nature of technological and economic interdependence. The Nebrian collaborative fleet found its most advanced communication networks becoming increasingly fragmented. Entire sections of their technological infrastructure simply ceased to function, not through external attack, but through the calculated withdrawal of foundational technologies. This isn't destruction, Dr. Sofia Alvarez noted, analyzing the systemic changes. This is a fundamental reset, an opportunity for genuine reimagining. Political structures began to fracture. Diplomatic alliances that had existed for millennia suddenly found themselves without the technological and economic foundations that had sustained them. The Galactic Council, once considered an immutable institution, began to show deep structural cracks. Commander Jack Nakamura's final strategic assessment was both a warning and an invitation. The withdrawn technologies weren't just a defensive mechanism. They were a comprehensive challenge to how interstellar civilizations conceptualized cooperation, technological development, and mutual understanding. The most profound impact was psychological. Alien civilizations that had believed themselves to be at the pinnacle of technological and cultural development suddenly found their fundamental assumptions challenged. Every collapsed system was a mirror, reflecting deep-seated vulnerabilities that had been hidden beneath layers of assumed superiority. Dr. Lena Volkov, tracking the systemic changes, found a profound beauty in the unfolding transformation. This isn't an ending, she explained to her research team. This is an invitation to reimagine what's possible. As the last technological networks began to dissolve, what remained was not destruction, but possibility. Humanity had not just left the galactic stage, they had fundamentally challenged the very concept of how civilizations interact, develop, and understand each other. The galaxy stood at the precipice of a fundamental transformation, and humanity had just rewritten the rules of engagement. Years passed. The quantum-encrypted message arrived not with fanfare, but with a quiet precision that defied conventional communication. Chancellor Vexera of the Nebrian Collaborative received the transmission in a moment of absolute solitude. The message wasn't a traditional diplomatic communication. It was an intricate quantum-encoded invitation that seemed to shimmer with layers of meaning beyond simple language. The holographic interface unfurled like a living document. No text, no traditional communication markers. Instead, a complex web of data points, cultural insights, and philosophical frameworks that challenged everything the alien civilizations understood about interstellar communication. Dr. Imani Okoro, now leading a specialized xenocommunication research team, began the delicate process of decoding. What appeared to be a simple message was actually a comprehensive framework for reimagining interspecies interaction. Each quantum-entangled data packet contained multiple layers of meaning, scientific insights, cultural observations, technological principles that seemed to exist in a state between invitation and challenge. The invitation wasn't just to reconnect. It was a profound challenge to reimagine the fundamental principles of galactic cooperation. Scattered research outposts began to receive similar transmissions, not broadcasts, but precisely targeted communications that seemed to understand the unique psychological and technological frameworks of each receiving civilization. The Karxt research stations found their quantum receivers filled with complex mathematical models that simultaneously presented scientific challenges and philosophical inquiries. Commander Elena Rodriguez's signature was encoded at the deepest level of the transmission, not as a traditional identifier, but as a complex quantum signature that seemed to carry the weight of an entire civilization's strategic thinking. The message was clear, yet infinitely nuanced. Humanity was offering a path forward, but on fundamentally different terms. Dr. Marcus Chen analyzed the initial responses from various alien civilizations. The reactions were as diverse as the species themselves. Some saw it as a threat, others as an unprecedented opportunity. The Vorlak diplomatic corps spent months attempting to decode the philosophical implications of a single quantum-encoded paragraph. Kai Lu's research team discovered something extraordinary. The invitation wasn't just a communication. It was a comprehensive test. Each civilization's response would be analyzed not for its technological capabilities, but for its capacity for genuine understanding, for the ability to move beyond traditional hierarchical thinking. The quantum transmission contained something unprecedented, a series of technological and cultural challenges that went far beyond traditional diplomatic exchanges. It was an invitation to prove worthiness, not through military might or economic power, but through genuine intellectual and cultural adaptability. Commander Jack Nakamura's strategic fingerprints were evident in the transmission's architecture. Each challenge was a carefully constructed scenario that would reveal the fundamental nature of a civilization's approach to problem-solving, to cooperation, to understanding. On Earth, in the hidden research facilities that had orchestrated humanity's withdrawal, teams of specialists began preparing for potential responses. This wasn't about waiting. It was about continued observation, continued learning. The most fascinating aspect was the transmission's inherent flexibility. It wasn't a single, fixed message, but a quantum adaptive communication that seemed to change subtly based on the receiving civilization's existing technological and cultural frameworks. Dr. Sofia Alvarez noted the transmission's most profound characteristic. It's not an invitation to join, she explained to her research team. It's an invitation to evolve. Diplomatic bodies across multiple star systems found themselves in unprecedented territory. The traditional frameworks of interstellar communication, carefully constructed over millennia, suddenly seemed obsolete. This was something entirely new. The Nembrian Collaborative's initial response team spent weeks in heated debate. How does one respond to an invitation that is simultaneously a challenge, a test, and a philosophical inquiry? Dr. Lena Volkov's analysis suggested something even more profound. The transmission wasn't just about reconnection. It was about fundamentally reimagining the concept of interstellar civilization. Each quantum-encoded data packet was a seed of potential, a challenge to move beyond established paradigms. As alien civilizations began to process the transmission, one thing became increasingly clear. Humanity hadn't just left the galactic stage. They had rewritten the entire concept of how civilizations interact, communicate, and understand each other. The invitation hung in the quantum realm. A challenge, a possibility, a glimpse of a future yet to be imagined.